Alright, so we have finally made it to the end of From Season 4. Episode 10 has landed, and honestly, it delivered in ways that genuinely shocked me, and in some ways, it left me wanting more. We had main character deaths, a full-on dark transformation, a red sky that felt ripped straight out of Stranger Things, the bottle tree getting completely obliterated, family reunions that hit harder than expected, and that incredible moment where the boy in white and the man in yellow finally acknowledged each other. This episode had layers on top of layers, and I need to break all of it down for you. Now, fair warning, this video is absolutely packed with spoilers for the Season 4 finale. If you haven't watched it yet, go do that first and come back. With that said, let's talk about what went down, break down the episode beat by beat, and then get into some theories about what Season 5 is going to look like. Starting with the bottle tree operation and the immediate chaos it caused. Jade and Tabitha found themselves face to face with the monsters lurking inside those caves, as they were down there trying to dig up the bones. When they signaled Boyd to go ahead and destroy the bottle tree from above, it became clear that Jade had been right all along. The tree was positioned directly above the cave entrance. The moment light flooded into those tunnels, it created a temporary barrier, a kind of protection that kept the monsters at bay. But that window didn't last long at all. Sophia had already sabotaged the rope, and with her and Jade both trapped underground, the destruction of the bottle tree didn't just fail to help, it actively set off a catastrophic chain reaction across the entire town. The sky went dark in the middle of the afternoon. An earthquake ripped through everything, and Jade and Tabitha were left with no way out, forced to find another route entirely. What made this sequence so powerful was how it directly connected back to what the boy in white told Victor back in Season 3, Episode 9, that the bottle tree mattered, that it should not be touched. The town practically confirmed that warning in the worst possible way the moment that tree came down. Randall's reaction summed it up perfectly. That look of disbelief as he essentially said, "What have they done?" It hit because it was the truth. They had crossed a line they couldn't uncross. What I also want to highlight here is how far Jade has come as a character. If you rewind to earlier seasons, Jade was somebody who was fundamentally self-interested. He wasn't the type to put himself in harm's way for someone else. And yet in this episode, he looked Tabitha in the eyes and told her that she should be the one to get out with the bones. He was going to stay behind and buy her time. He was prepared to die so that she and her children could get home. That kind of shift in a character doesn't happen by accident, and the writers executed it beautifully. When he said to her that if he had to spend every single one of his lifetimes with anyone, he was glad it was with her, I felt that. The scene carried genuine weight because we've watched Jade evolve across 4 seasons to get to that point. Before we get into it, if you're new here and you love deep dives into shows like From, hit that subscribe button right now because this channel is exactly where you want to be for this kind of content. If you think the same thing about theories and breakdowns as me, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's get into this. Now, the consequences of the bottle tree coming down were felt across the entire episode. With darkness settling over the town in the middle of the day, the monsters had their moment, and the scene where the group is trapped inside the car trying to survive is one of the standout moments of the entire season. The camera work was phenomenal. These tight, whipping close-up shots that made you feel like you were squeezed in right alongside them. The claustrophobia was suffocating. Patty completely losing it, the sound of screeching filling every inch of the space, and then a monster pressing itself right up against the window. It was genuinely unsettling television. There was also a lightning bolt that struck the exact spot where the bottle tree once stood, and from there, the sky turned red and a storm rolled in. That crimson sky has become one of the show's most memorable visual signatures, and seeing it here felt like the town itself reacting, almost like it was wounded by what had just happened. Sophia's comment earlier that things were getting dark because they were approaching the end started to make a lot more sense in that context. And the man in yellow barely even flinched at any of it, which tells you something important about how much power he actually holds compared to everything else happening in this town. Tabitha's moment with the bones also deserves attention. When she looked down at what she was carrying, she experienced a vision and recognized the skull as belonging to the Ankui girl from the Season 3 finale. Her memories were returning. Things were coming back. But this show has told us before that knowledge comes at a cost, so I'm genuinely curious and a bit nervous about what price Tabitha is going to pay for remembering everything she's starting to piece together. The removal of the bottle tree also directly led to Marielle's death at the hands of Smiley, and this hit harder than expected. Marielle was never my favorite character. There were moments where I found her frustrating. But watching her stand up for Fatima and then beg Christy for a final moment together before the end was devastating. The piano score paired with Christy completely breaking down elevated it into something genuinely special. And there's a painful layer of irony in the fact that Marielle was the one who kept talking about souls becoming trapped in the town when people die. Now she's one of them. Now let's talk about Fatima's transformation, because this has been building for a while and it finally happened. The theories have been out there for some time. The unnaturally low pulse, the varicose veins creeping across her skin, the strange and unsettling connection she had to Smiley. And in this episode, when Smiley found both Fatima and Marielle and simply said, "Hello, Mother," that single line confirmed everything that had been theorized. That delivery was chilling. When Fatima made the decision to go into the tunnels to give Boyd and the rest of the group the time they needed to get Jade and Tabitha out, she turned back and told them to remember who she was, not who she is. Who she was. That distinction is everything. And then she transformed. The screeching, the physical shift, the Fatima they knew is gone. Now here's where it gets interesting from a theory standpoint. Fatima's transformation is unique. She's not bound by the same deal that the original residents made when they gave their children to the town in exchange for immortality. She's something different, and I think I know why. My theory is this. The ritual the town was built on involved parents sacrificing their children to the entity that governs this place. What happened to Fatima in the Season 3 finale mirrors that in a specific way. She gave birth to Smiley, and the town took him. The circumstance isn't identical, but the structure of it is the same. A mother losing her child to the town's will. And now she's been claimed. Add to that the fact that she had the man in yellow's blood inside her at some point during the season, and you have a combination of factors that could have accelerated or triggered the transformation. She may be a hybrid, part human in her mind, all monster in her body, potentially the only one of her kind. And here's the question nobody can answer yet. Is Fatima going to be a monster that fights on behalf of the town and its residents? Or has she crossed fully to the other side? Her parting words suggest she knew what she was becoming and that she was scared of it. That feels like someone saying goodbye because they weren't sure who they'd be when they came out the other side. One frustration I have is the amount of time spent on the Golem storyline. After episode 6, it essentially vanished from the narrative. If Fatima is now gone in her human form, the Golem might be the legacy she leaves behind at Colony House and could matter in Season 5, but right now it feels like an unresolved thread. Now on to Sophia and what she's actually doing. After Elgin found the photograph that identified Sophia in the penultimate episode, he confronted her and she gave him the same offer she gave Clara. Align yourself with her side or face the consequences. Unlike Clara, Elgin refused. He had grown enough through his arc, especially after everything that happened in Season 3, that he wasn't going to betray the people who had stood beside him. That integrity cost him his life. The man in yellow's touch took him out, and while it was sad, there was something poetic about Elgin choosing to go out on his own terms, rather than compromising who he'd become. And that triggered Sophia moving into full execution mode. She told Clara she was going to light the match and watch everything burn. And then, she did something methodical and devastating. She went around the entire town and collected every talisman she could find. Every single one. With those talismans gone, the buildings are no longer safe. The monsters can enter wherever they want, whenever they want. The residents are essentially being stripped of every layer of protection they have, and the environment is being deliberately constructed for something catastrophic. Here's my read on what that something is. The massacre. Think back to what we know about the massacre that occurred when Victor was a child. We never saw it. We only know that Miranda hid Victor in the middle of the night, and when it was over, he was the only one left. With all the talismans gone and the monsters free to roam, the conditions for that kind of event are being recreated right now. Sophia has said multiple times that the end is near and it's going to get messy. I believe she is intentionally engineering the environment for that cycle to repeat. The end state would leave Ethan alone the way Victor was left alone, marking the close of another cycle. Clara is still convinced that the man in yellow is going to honor whatever deal she thinks she has with him, but I don't think she understands what she's dealing with. The moment she's no longer useful, she'll likely meet the same fate as Elgin, unless the rules around bargains and rituals protect her, and in this town, those rules do carry real weight, so there's a chance she's more shielded than she realizes. But I wouldn't bet on it. The moment where we saw Sophia and the boy in white together after she disposed of the talismans was a scene I keep coming back to. The boy in white looked at her and said she was going to lose this time. And there was something almost playful in the way they spoke to each other, like this was a game they had played before, across different cycles, with different people, and the scoreboard just kept changing. What strikes me about this dynamic is how uneven the power seems to be. The boy in white operates in hints and riddles. He appears selectively, he doesn't intervene directly. Meanwhile, the man in yellow moves through the town like he owns it. He causes destruction without consequence. He takes lives with a touch. The imbalance there is notable, and I think it's going to be one of the central things Season 5 has to address. My own theory about the boy in white and the man in yellow is that they're not simply good and evil in the conventional sense. I think the town itself is a living system that has been running this cycle for potentially centuries, and both figures are servants of that system. The boy in white represents the possibility of breaking the cycle. The man in yellow represents its continuation. The residents are the playing pieces. The fact that the boy in white said she was going to lose this time implies the score isn't always in the man in yellow's favor, which means there have been cycles where the residents won, and which means it's possible again. Moving on to the Henry and Victor storyline. Henry has been spiraling this season, wrestling with whether the town is real or some kind of dream state, with the hallucination version of Victor telling him that once he accepts it's a dream, it will give him everything he needs, and with Donna telling him to go see his son, Henry interpreted it all as the town speaking to him. He believed he needed to kill Victor to force himself back into the reality he wanted, the complete family he'd never had. When he pointed that weapon at Victor, something shifted. Victor stood up to his father with an authority we've rarely seen from him, and it landed. Boyd also acknowledged in this episode that they should have listened to Victor about the bottle tree. I think that's the show setting up a larger shift in Season 5, where the group finally starts treating Victor as the resource he actually is. The Julie storyline was where I felt most disappointed. The story walking had so much potential and never got the focus it deserved. She had a vision of the massacre in Episode 4, encountered the man in yellow, and none of it had the impact it should have on the overall story. I think Season 5 will finally give her arc the room it needs, but this season it felt like a missed opportunity. The kitchen scene with the banging plates and doors is something I keep returning to. My best theory is that this is Julie story walking into a different time period and trying to send a warning to her family. It's happened more than once, with no direct threat following, which suggests it's not hostile. If it is Julie, watching Ethan sit there convinced he was about to be left alone the way Victor was might be exactly what pushes her to try again. She has more reason than ever. Protect her brother, find her father, get answers. Alternatively, if Jim's appearance in Episode 2 wasn't the man in yellow using him as a vessel, could Jim himself be trying to reach them? The show hasn't answered that, and I think the ambiguity is intentional. As for my overall take on the finale, good, not great. The first third was close to perfect. The tension during the bottle tree operation was the kind of sustained dread this show does better than almost anything else on TV right now. The car scene was horrifying in the best way. Marielle's death was more affecting than I expected. Fatima's transformation was visually and emotionally powerful. But the episode also had weaknesses. At roughly 45 to 50 minutes, it felt shorter than a finale deserves. Compare it to Season 3, which gave us the man in yellow reveal and Jim's death as jaw-dropping, unforgettable moments. This one ended a bit abruptly. And the logistics of Sophia and Clara Aro walking around collecting bags full of talismans without a single person catching them felt too convenient. No friction, no near miss. That's a storytelling opportunity left on the table. That said, what the finale did well was set up Season 5 with a clear direction. The town has been stripped bare. The protections are gone. A massacre may be coming. The cycle is potentially in its final rotation. And we have a hybrid monster in Fatima whose allegiance is unknown. A boy in white who believes the good side can still win. And a group of survivors who are slowly starting to understand the rules of the game they're trapped in. Season 5 has an enormous amount to deliver. Real answers about the town's origin, the nature of the boy in white and the man in yellow, whether the cycle can actually be broken, and what happens to the souls trapped there. This show has proven it can be brilliant and inconsistent almost simultaneously, so I'm cautiously hopeful. But the pieces are in place for something special. That's gonna do it for today's breakdown. If you made it this far, you're clearly serious about this show, and that means you belong here on this channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It genuinely helps more than you know, and means you'll never miss a breakdown, theory, or explanation video when new content drops. Drop your own theories in the comments below because I read every single one of them, and some of you have come up with things that have genuinely changed how I think about this show. Until next time.